I'm correct.
Alright, so last week we started off with Esther. We only got 2 chapters in.
Did you get my answer I sent you?
What?
Did you read the answer I sent you to our question?
I did not.
What?
My phone has been jacked up.
And I brought the
broke my
whole
phone.
book.
What did
I
you
broke
do?
my phone.
What'd you do?
I got it all wet.
Well, if anyone wants to know,
Yeah, I did that to my last
I was listening to music and
Technically,
it was on the seal of my shower and it got a phone call and vibrated off under the shower and now long story short, don't listen to your music while you shower.
Grant, rice.
It's in rice right now.
Okay, good.
well, the answer to our what happened to the women after the said deal that weren't picked, according to this commentary, they would have become the king's concubines for the rest of forever.
That's what I thought. I was correct.
So his what? You know,
I'm so
all
confused.
the random ladies from the kingdom that
That
they
didn't
picked to
win
be
the
part of like
contest?
Esther's beauty show
Is that when you did last year? I mean last
week. Oh, you weren't here. Yeah, we're studying Esther. Okay, so like they gather up all the women in the kingdom, everybody that wasn't picked.
Well, I know that, but I mean,
Yeah, I always thought they would have just went back home. I don't know if I ever thought that through. I mean, I read it.
They were
But
pretty
they
much
became the king's
slaves
concubines, would have been
forever.
like his mistresses for the rest of forever.
How did the generation
I actually just learned
go
what
again?
that word meant today. Like I knew what it meant.
It's
but
a
I
lost
didn't
in
know
my
what
eyes.
it
It's like
A lot of dead local.
Yeah.
ladies on the side.
There are no sweet
They would
honeys
have
to be
become
found.
part of his harem
Pretty
and would have been stuck with him forever because he was a nasty pagan old man, according to my commentary.
That's what I kind of
Nasty pagan
assumed.
old man.
Alright, so we read about it and we cut off the story with Esther's cousin Mordecai. He just saved the king and told on the people that he heard wanting to overthrow and kill the king and got them hung, and we go from there. So we have,
Chapter 3.
yes, chapter 3.
Oh, other random information I learned from this. He thinks that Mordecai actually like volunteered Esther to be a part. She wasn't forced. Mordecai put her in this situation.
Okay, well, either way, we have Esther is now the queen, and a few years later, we start with chapter 3. So, after all this took place, King Ahasuerus honored Haman, son of, here we go again, Hammedatha, the Agagite. He promoted him in rank and gave him a higher position than all the other officials. Alright, so Haman got all these women and gathered them up for the king and got Esther prepared, and Esther was chosen. The king liked this whole ordeal, so he gave Haman a raise. Haman gets promoted. Verse 2, the entire royal staff at the king's gate bowed down and paid homage to Haman because the king had commanded this to be done of him. But Mordecai would not bow down or pay homage. And so the king says, hey, everyone, Haman's above you. Bow down to him, respect him more. And throughout the Old Testament, you'll find many Jews who will not bow down to anyone because they only bow down to God. You have the furnace boys.
Shadrach, Meshach.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, also known as the furnace boys.
They were on fire.
They would not bow down. Same thing here with Mordecai. Verse 3 and 4 goes into, the members of the royal staff at the king's gate asked Mordecai, why are you disobeying the king's command? When they had warned him day after day and he would still not listen to them, they told Haman in order to see if Mordecai's actions would be tolerated since he had told them he was a Jew. So obviously at this point it kind of struck me as odd, but Haman had not noticed that Mordecai wasn't doing this. These other people touted on Mordecai. Haman had not noticed that Mordecai wasn't bowing to him, but these people did not like that they had to bow down to Haman, and he did not. And they found out he was a Jew, and he's like, does that make him different? So they just go to Haman himself. Hey, this guy's not doing it. What's the deal here? In verse 5, Haman saw that Mordecai was not bowing down and paying him homage. He was filled with rage. We're going to find out that Haman has some issues here. This guy will not bow down to him. So verse 6, he was filled with rage, and when he learned that Mordecai's ethnic identity, or he was a Jew, it seemed repugnant to Haman to do away with Mordecai alone. So it's not good enough to get rid of Mordecai. He planned to destroy all of Mordecai's people, the Jews throughout Ahasuerus' kingdom. So let's say Daniel is doing this deed, and someone besides Daniel is his enemy. He does not want to just get rid of Daniel. He wants to get rid of all the outlaws. All
Good luck.
So Haman's got some issues here. Like, you'd think it'd be good enough just to get rid of Mordecai, but it was not. And the thing that strikes me so weird, we're going to learn about Haman and stuff as we go on through this story, but he couldn't handle one person, right? Which struck me so weird. He has all these people bowing down. He is the highest officer out of any officer out there. And he could not deal with this one person. And I know Haman is the bad guy in this story. But this gets him, I mean, if you know the story of Esther, this gets Haman in a lot of trouble towards the end of the story. How often do us as people, like, how often do we get distracted on one thing when we got all these good things that we can't see anything else? And it ends up getting us into trouble. I mean, you can take away from Haman just as easy as you can any other character in the story. Because there are some times where it might be something really stupid and it gets me really distracted and I want to only worry about that one thing. So, verse 7 and 8. In the first month, the month of Nisan, I'm guessing Nisan would be January since it's the first month, but I'm not sure how their calendar worked. In King Ahasuerus' 12th year. So this is, I wrote it down, I think this is 7 years after, no, it's 5 years after Esther was queen. So Queen Esther has been living the good life for the last 5 years. That was in the 7th year, I do believe. I thought I had it wrote down. I know I looked it up. But, so, Esther's been living the good life for 5, 7 years, something like that. And in the 12th year, the pur, that is the lot, was cast before Haman for each day in each month, and it fell on the 12th month in the month Adar. Then Haman informed King Ahasuerus, there is one ethnic group, the Jews, scattered throughout the people in every province of your kingdom, keeping themselves separate. Their laws are different from everyone else's, and they do not obey the king's laws. Is it not in the king's best interest to tolerate them? So he went from being tattled to, now he's tattling about the whole nation on the king. Because the Jews were just minding their own business, doing their thing, and Haman does not like it, just because of one dude. I mean, he is distracted on this one thing. And does someone care to go shut that door?
Yeah, it sounded like there's a leak over there.
There's a ton of water.
Alright, so verse 9 tells us this is Haman's plan. And I will say, another thing that strikes me weird about Haman, Haman cannot stand this one dude. Once again, he is so distracted on this one dude. He's filthy rich. I did not realize this, because this is Haman's plan. He is willing to pay to get the Jews destroyed. And he's not willing to pay just a little bit. In verse 9, if the king approves, let the order be drawn up authorizing their destruction. I will pay 375 tons of silver. We're talking 750,000 pounds.
How much moolah? Did you calculate?
I don't know the price of silver, but it's a lot.
Inflation on
I
that,
am
dude.
very much curious now.
Yeah, no,
750,000 pounds of silver to the officials for the deposit in the royal treasury. So he's pretty much like saying, hey, if you'll let me do this, I'll pay for it all. I'll pay for everyone who does it, and we'll be good to go. The king removed his signet seal from his finger and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of the Jewish people. So, this is where Haman gets some of his power right here. He gets the royal seal. The king is already, Haman is his favorite guy in the kingdom. He gets this royal seal. And this is also where he gets named. He is literally named the enemy of the Jewish people here. This is the first time he's referred to as that. That is not a title you want when the Jewish people are God's chosen people. You do not want to be their enemy. That is a bad idea. Then the king told Haman, the money and the people are given to you to do with as you see it. So this makes me want to think the king just didn't take his money. But I could be wrong here. Like, is the king going to pay for this? I wasn't sure.
He's got to be in debt, bro.
The king told Haman, the money and the people are given to you to do with what you need. Or you see fit. I mean, what do you guys think? I take that as, don't worry about it. Here's the money, here's the people.
Read it again.
So he's willing to give all this money. In verse 11, then the king told Haman, the money and the people are given to you to do with as you see fit.
Sounds like you're just saying yes to me.
I mean, I feel like the king's giving him money then, and not taking
Yeah,
it.
I don't know. It reads confusing on this too.
Or he's taking the money but letting him use it.
That could be true.
He doesn't use it, just his.
Yeah, that could be a definite option. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I just found that I didn't know the answer. I don't know. But verse 12, the royal scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month. So this is the first month here. And the order was written exactly as Haman commanded. It was intended for the royal satraps, I don't know what that is, the governors of each of the provinces, the officials of each ethnic group, because as we said last week, they had like 180 different kingdoms or whatever. In each province, in its own script, in each ethnic group, in its own language, it was written in the name of the king Ahasuerus and sealed with the royal signet ring. The letters are sent by carriers to each of the royal provinces, telling the officials to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jewish people, young and old, women and children, and plunder their possessions on a single day, the 13th day of Adar, the 12th month. So, he knows he's going to have a lot of time.
It's a lieutenant.
What?
It's a lieutenant.
It's a lieutenant. Okay, thank you. He knows he's going to need a lot of time to plan this up. And one thing that surprised me about this, because I hadn't read Esther like too very detailed. When does he want to kill them? All these people. He wants to annihilate them, but like...
Isn't that a lot of people?
What?
No, it'd be like half the population or something crazy, wouldn't it be?
It'd be a lot of people. But the thing is, he wants to do it on a single day.
How is it possible?
I mean, I don't know if he's gonna round them up.
Well, yeah, and I always thought they would be warned. Like they know that they're all about to get killed. Like
They do.
Wouldn't someone try to like sneak out? Like.
And this is a 12-month gap here. He knows he's going to need time to figure this all out. We went from the first month to on the 12th month to the 12th day or whatever. He's going to kill them on a single day. So I guess like
Kind of sounds like World War II to me.
you get like.
Adolf Hitler needed to take notes.
Well, I mean,
Well, that's what. That's
like
the
they've
idea.
always been prosecuted the Jews have always been not prosecuted, persecuted. Words are hard. But like you said, it sounds like World War II. World War II, they went on a killing spree of the Jews, but it's like all the time, every day. Haman decided, we're going to do it this day right here. They're just going to be gone. And that, like, I didn't never really notice that. I just kind of figured it'd be.
And it's like overkill. It tells him to destroy, kill, and annihilate.
Yeah. The dude's got some. The
Maybe
dude's
he
got
means like all
some
the
issues.
Jews in his area.
What?
No, he meant all
No,
of
the
them.
whole, all
All
of
of
it.
them in like the
Like,
entire, like
in their
everywhere.
kingdoms.
The 180 kingdoms.
In their kingdoms.
That's a lot of kingdoms.
Yeah.
That's a lot of places.
Oh yeah, he
And
wasn't
one
here
day-
last week. There was a big party with 180 kingdoms.
They're like,
Ridiculous.
more party, kill the Jews.
So,
Oh
my God.
a copy of the text issued as law throughout every province was distributed to all the people so that they might get ready for that day. The carriers left, spurred on the royal command, and the law was issued in the fortress of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink while the city of Susa was in confusion. So this is like a movie right here. Like they send out this law to get all these people wiped out, and they just sit down and have a drink. Like these were some jacked up dudes. Like totally. And like they have the whole people and they just sit back and watch it happen. When it literally says the city was in confusion. Of course it was in confusion, I'm sure. Like, let's say Hannah's not a Jew, Ellen's a Jew, and Hannah hears this word that her friend Ellen is going to get killed, and everyone has these friends, and they're just like, what in the world's happening? And then the king's just sitting up there having them a good drink.
I feel like if everyone found out, it'd be so easy to overthrow them.
This dude had a lot of power.
I mean, I understand, but like, well, I actually don't know the population.
180 kingdoms. It's a lot of people, but I would say, I'm
But there's
guessing
also
he has.
kingdoms and those kingdoms and stuff.
The kingdom probably has, the people in the kingdom probably has more resources to use.
No, he's like rules over all the kingdoms.
Yeah, he's a big dude here. But that's it for chapter 3. Then we move on to chapter 4, where we get into more interesting stuff that I've never noticed before. When Mordecai learned all that had occurred, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes and went in the middle of the city and cried loudly and bitterly. This was a traditional thing, like the Jews would kind of get away from God, and then when problems would pop up, they would go mourn, put on tore clothes, and act like they weren't anything without God. And so this is not uncommon. You can find multiple stories in the Bible where they act like this. Verse 2, he went only as far as the king's gate, since the law prohibited anyone wearing sackcloth from entering the king's gate. There was a great mourning among the Jewish people in every province where the king's command had edict.
Whose command and edict came?
And edict came. They fasted, wept, lamented, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So, like I said, they did this quite often back when. And it was kind of a thing where, like, the people, I'm not even sure why they would do the sackcloth thing, to be honest, but it was something to do with God. But it was
just a sign of mourning.
yeah, but it was always a thing where like they got away from God, I felt like, and didn't do as much, and then they come back like, oh, we need you.
Not necessarily. I think Nehemiah did that. He was not of God's will.
Yeah, but I think of like the one city. What's the one city where they are?
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
They were never in God's will. Though.
No, but it's normally when they need something from God.
Yeah, and this is saying that if you notice, which I didn't even notice, they never prayed.
No.
They never called for prayer. They just went into mourning, and that's showing that they were out of the will of God. They had not been doing what God had wanted them to do.
That's true. And another thing here, they know it's coming, but once again, they don't just leave. I'm not sure. But I mean, I can find multiple times in my life, and if you think hard, you can probably find times in your life where you do the same thing. You get into trouble, and you either, A, you just mourn and try to fix it yourself, or B, you mourn and try to turn it over to God and do it correctly when you could have just done that in the first place. But there's a lot of times where I just try to fix it myself, and I don't know how they thought they was fixing it just mourning. I guess they were all just real bummed. But verse 4. So Esther sees this happening here. And Esther's female servants and her eunuchs came and reported the news to her, and the queen was overcome with fear. She sent clothes for Mordecai to wear so that he would take off his sackcloth, but he did not accept them. Esther summoned Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs, who attended her, and dispatched him to Mordecai to learn what he was doing and why. So Esther didn't. I take that as she did not know. She sees all these Jews all mourning and in their sackcloth, but she does not know the news yet. Because she sent this dude, she's like, Mordecai needs clothes, take him these. And then he doesn't want them, and then she sends a messenger to figure out what in the world's happening, why are you doing this? So it kind of surprised me, like Esther was not in the picture. Queens were not important. I mean, she lived the life, don't get me wrong. She had the good life going on. But she was not in the picture. Like, if Victoria's the queen, the king did not go to her and be like, do you think I should do this? The king just did it. Victoria has no clue what's going on. She's just...
Does not apply with the actual Queen Victoria at all.
No, she's just living the good life and not caring. But she sees Mordecai and she is very startled by all this that's happening. Verse 6, so Hathach, this is the eunuch she has going out to get the message, went out to Mordecai in the city square in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told him everything that had happened, as well as the exact amount of money that Haman had promised to pay the royal treasury for the slaughter of the Jews. So I guess there's my answer. Haman did pay the money. And I'm not sure why that was public knowledge. But verse 8, Mordecai also gave him a copy of the written decree issued in Susa ordering the destruction, so that Hathach might show it to Esther and explain it to her and command her to approach the king, imploring his favor, and plead with him personally for her people. So he's not hiding it at all now. I mean, he didn't really hide the fact that he was a Jew, but I mean, I don't think he just went out in public knowledge. But if you've seen him out there during this time, you know for sure Mordecai's a Jew at this point.
I learned today that he was actually a judge in the gates. That's what he would do, sitting in the gates. That's where the judges would sit, in the gates.
Huh? What did it do back then?
I don't know. I guess took care of the people's problems. Like,
Oh.
yeah, they sat in the gates.
I just thought maybe they're like the gate, just sort of like beating with hammer.
No, I don't know if people would bring their like little issues or something. I don't know.
Maybe. I'm not sure what a judge did back then.
But I wondered if that's how he
Yeah, just multiplied bigger.
I wondered if maybe that's why he had so much info. Maybe he caught a lot of stuff when he was hanging out at the gates.
That's true. I mean, he caught the guys who were trying to assassinate the king.
Yeah.
So.
That's compensation.
And verse 9, if I can find where I'm at. Yeah, 9, here we are. Hathach came and repeated Mordecai's response to Esther. So he goes from Esther to Mordecai, back to Esther. Esther spoke to Hathach and commanded him to tell Mordecai. So they are pretty much, this is like old-fashioned texting right here. Just send the poor guy back and forth.
Snail mail.
Why didn't she just go herself? Was she not allowed to?
She wouldn't have been. She would not have been one. She would not have wanted to be seen with Mordecai, because I mean, no one knows she's a Jew at this point.
Well, and she was the queen. She probably didn't go out and about like.
I'd say it'd be more she didn't want to be seen with them. Would be my guess, because right here is something I never caught at all with Esther. But she tells him to tell Mordecai, all the royal officials and the people of the royal provinces, in the royal provinces know that one law applies to every man or woman who approaches the king in the inner courtyard. And who has not been summoned the death penalty, unless the king extends his royal scepter, allowing the person to live. I have not been summoned to appear before the king for the last 30 days, Esther's response was reported to Mordecai. So she hasn't seen the king in 30 days. And nobody, it doesn't matter if you're his wife or not, if he does not want you there, or if he's not in the mood to talk to you, and you go to him, you just get killed. If he's in the mood, he'll hold out his scepter, his golden rod, and let you come in. So she is telling him this reason. She's like, hey, I can't go there, I'll die. Esther is scared. Like, I never noticed, like, in my head, the story of Esther was like, oh, my people need me, I will go, no matter what happens. But Mordecai lays into her here. He chews her out. Mordecai told the messenger to reply to Esther, don't think that you will escape the fate of all the Jews because you are in the king's palace. If you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will come to the Jewish people. If you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will come to the Jewish people from another place. But you and your father's family will be destroyed. Who knows? Perhaps you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. So Esther is enjoying her royal life. I mean, life is good. She's been the queen for 5 years. She is getting pampered and gets all her meals cooked for her. Life is great. And she does not want to give that up and try to get herself killed here. And Mordecai just tells her, hey, you aren't going to get away with this. You can't just sit up there on your royal throne and think that you're going to get away with letting your people die. She is not fond of this. And like I said, that had never struck me. I always thought of Esther as like, oh, I will do it instantly. My people need me. And he tells her, hey, if you aren't going to do it, somebody will. We're God's people is what I take from it. Is what he's saying. He doesn't specifically say it, but someone's going to help them out. And he says, maybe you're here for this
Specifics.
Thank you, that word.
Can't English.
Specific.
No. But, so, let me find verse 15. Esther sent this reply to Mordecai. They're still sending this one dude back and forth.
These guys are long cats.
Go and assemble all the Jews who can be found in Susa and fast for me. Don't eat or drink for 3 days, night or day, and I and my female servants will also fast in the same way. After that, I will go to the king, even if it is against the law. If I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went and did everything Esther had commanded him. So, the story of Esther never mentions God. But I assume the fasting here, I mean, would that be to God? I don't see another reason.
He doesn't think so.
My question is on it. If it's not to God, why fast?
I think it could have been tradition, maybe.
I don't know. Like, I'll be honest, I don't have an answer for this.
Rebellion.
Let's fast.
Don't eat the food.
I mean, I would like to think that it would be to prayer, but that usually everywhere else in the Bible,
Fast and pray.
it says they fast and pray.
Yeah, here they don't pray. What?
If they're praying to somebody else, it wouldn't be in the Bible.
Yeah. True. Well,
I mean, I think it would be. I mean, there's plenty of other spots where the Bible does not care to say the Jews worship the golden
No,
calf.
I know, but I'm just saying, I kind of think, I mean, if they would have prayed, it would have said so.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they were fasting,
just goes.
Maybe she
but I don't think that would have been
Yes.
unstated.
She needs Jesus in the pounds.
Well,
That's what I was thinking. I was like, there's gotta be a reason.
maybe you're bringing up that like they might have been praying to someone else that wasn't God? Or what was your thing you said?
I'm saying they have to be.
They have
You
to-
said they might have been fasting to someone else, and I said that it probably wouldn't be in the Bible if they weren't.
I think it would have stated it.
I think it would have.
Someone else.
Because, I
Because
mean,
they've definitely like worshipped.
yeah, because the Bible's never been scared to say, like, when Moses came down from the mountain with the
Golden calf.
the 10 Commandments, there's praising a golden calf. So the Bible never just skips around that stuff.
Yeah, and I don't think it usually skips around.
Then so I don't know what they think they're proving here. And once again, I don't know. They're so far off from God here, in my opinion, that maybe, for all we know, just like the story of Samson, like we kind of decided that Samson's parents wouldn't have known much about God. What if they're so far off? This is just totally out there. This is my just thought process here. What if they're so far out there that this fasting thing might be something they heard from like their grandparents?
Well, they've been in captivity by these heathens for how long?
Yeah. Like what if it's like, oh, we're desperate. I heard my grandfather talk about fasting once. I don't know what it was about, but let's try it. I don't know.
Or maybe it was like a built-in instinct that they just,
Developed.
yeah.
He loves it.
I don't know.
Like they felt like it was a good idea.
Just comes to them one day and then they did it.
Stressed out, eat.
But like I said, I've been studying this and trying, but I want open opinions because I don't know.
That is the commentary's point of view.
What?
That they were just so out of the will of God. The whole thing. Yeah.
I could see.
But like God is working around
Yeah.
that. But
I don't know.
it's interesting.
There's lots of different options. And David could be right. I just don't see that the Bible would skip around it. I think the Bible would just flat out tell you, like, oh, they fasted to Baal, and it didn't work. And I don't see God blessing them so well if they're fasting to someone else.
Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily know if he blessed them for fasting. It never says that.
No, but I'm just saying, like, he might have whipped up on them a little more than they already had been whipped up on before. Because God was not scared to whip up on the Jews when they started messing up. I mean, they went through some hard stuff.
But I also think, like, if we do, like, works, if we're not actually living it, it's fruitless.
Yeah.
Like, you can fast all day, but if, you know.
And Julie makes a good point there. We have, in this day, a lot of people who say they're Christians or whatever. And we have a lot of people out there that think, oh, we've all heard it. When someone, maybe they don't want to surrender to Jesus and they talk to them about heaven, they're like, I'm a good person, I do good stuff. Maybe these people weren't doing it to God. Maybe they were doing it for themselves in the fact that they thought, hey, I'm fasting, this is going to help me out. Now that's a very possible point. Like maybe they was just doing it because they thought they were getting brownie points. And I could see the Bible not putting that in there because it's not like right there. It's just that they fasted. I don't know.
It's weird that it's written that way.
What time is it?
Oh, you were telling me.
7:45.
Okay, we got one more chapter. It's pretty short. Let's bust it out here. But that's just a point to think about because like I said, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah, when you start going through this slow, like you read a lot of things that you're like, I don't remember that when I was 10 in the storybook Bible.
I don't remember that in VeggieTales. So, in chapter 5, on the third day, Esther dressed in her royal clothing and stood in the inner courtyard of the palace facing it. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the royal courtyard facing its entrance. As soon as the king saw Queen Esther standing in the courtyard, she gained favor in his eyes. The king extended his golden scepter in his hand towards Esther, and she approached and touched the tip of the scepter. So I would like to say before we get into this, the whole rest of the chapter, Esther is a sharp lady when it comes. She is smart. She is not stupid. She knows her husband fairly well here. And she's done it here. She's got into the courtyard, right? In verse 3, he says to her, "What is it, Queen Esther?" The king asked her, "Whatever you want, even half the kingdom." will be given to you. If it pleases the king, it'll be given to you. So he offers her. He's like, hey, half of my kingdom, it's yours if you want it. So like 90 kingdoms. But would he have actually given it to her? I don't think. Or at least if he would have, Esther sure didn't think he would. Because Esther goes on and says in verse 4, if it pleases the king, Esther replied, may the king and Haman come today to a banquet that I have prepared for them. So he's like, hey, you can have half the kingdom. What do you want? Can I cook dinner for you? Like, he is thinking right now that he has wife material. Like, oh, I just offered you half the kingdom and you want to make me a feast? Yes, I'll be there. And verse 5, the king said, hurry and get Haman so that we can do as Esther has requested. Like, he's in a hurry. He's like, yes, this is great.
Free food.
And we already know the king loves to party.
In his defense, I would do the same thing.
So the king, Mason does approve. So the king and Haman went to the banquet Esther had prepared. Verse 6, while drinking the wine, the king asked Esther, whatever you ask will be given to you. Whatever you want, even half the kingdom, it will be done. So he brings up the same point. And Esther, I'm guessing, is still not convinced here. So Esther answers. She's smart. I mean, she's real smart. This is my petition and my request. If I have found favor in the eyes of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition. So she's like, if you're willing to let me ask this question. I mean, she is, in my opinion, she is buttering this dude up like hard. Like, if you're willing to let me ask this question, and you're willing to perform my request, may the king and Haman come to the banquet that I will prepare for them tomorrow, and I will do what the king has asked. So he's like, as long as you ask me to make this banquet, I will go do it. And he's like, sure, I'll ask you to make me another feast tomorrow.
This guy's gonna win a lot. There's no way.
And she asked him, and she asked Haman. Haman's already there. In verse 9, and I want to think of this. Once again, I take Haman as a good point in this story. I can be a Haman sometimes to an extent. Haman, verse 9, that day Haman left, full of joy and good spirits. So he is excited. He's like, I just went to a personal party with the queen and the king, and that was it. But when Haman saw Mordecai at the king's gates, and Mordecai didn't rise or tremble in fear at his presence, Haman was filled with rage towards Mordecai. Yet Haman controlled himself and went home. He sent for his friends and his wife Zeresh to join him. So Haman went from having great joy to being very upset at this one thing. I mean, you guys can just think in your own life. Sometimes you're on top of the world and like one thing happens and it just ends everything for you, and you're just upset and angry when it probably wasn't even that big of a deal. In verse 11, then Haman described for them his glorious wealth and his many sons. He told them all how the king had honored him and promoted him in rank over the other officials in the royal staff. What's more, Haman added, like he's just bragging himself up. He's very prideful here to his friends and his wife. Like, I don't know what kind of friends Haman had. If they just thought, man, Haman's got a lot of money, let's hang out with him. But I'd hate to think, let's say I'm friends with Haley, and I know Haley is inviting me over just so I can hear her talk how great she is. Like,
it kind of seems like a Queen of Hearts part in Alice in Wonderland. Like, she has all these friends who are fearful of her because she's so powerful and could do anything, and so they decided, hey, well, we're gonna be nice because we're scared.
Well, I mean, it does help you get friends when you have 375,000 pounds, no, 375 tons
Of silver to spare.
silver laying around. But what's more, Haman added, Queen Esther invited no one but me to join the king and at the banquet she had prepared. I am invited again tomorrow to join her with the king. So he's just talking about all this. He is fired up. But still, in the back of his head, this one thing is nagging him so bad. Still, none of this satisfies me, since I see Mordecai, the Jew, sitting in the king's gate all the time. It's like you got all this stuff, and you see one dude, and he just ruins it all for you.
Petty.
It's very petty. He's got some issues.
I think his friends and his wife have some issues too.
Yes, because his wife is an evil lady as well. Verse 14, his wife, Zeresh, and all his friends told him, have them build gallows 75 feet tall. Ask the king in the morning to hang Mordecai on it. Then go to the banquet with the king and enjoy yourself. You know what? That problem you have, Hannah, that one girl at your school that you don't really like, I think tomorrow before they start class, just have her hung.
Oh my God.
So you can go throughout your day and feel good. She's not there.
No.
That is what.
Like, they're jacked up. Do not find, my gentlemen or my girls, do not find a spouse that will give you this advice. Like, Haley has a husband, and Haley said, you know that choir teacher you don't like?
Kill him.
Just hang him.
Dude, I do that all the time. It's just like somebody gets on somebody's nerves.
Off with his head, basically.
Like, they're jacked up. But Haman's even more jacked up, because Haman's reply, my reply would be like, whoa, let's not get that serious. Haman says, the advice pleased Haman, so he had the gallows constructed.
Oh my God.
He's like, you know what? I am going to have those made. That's a great idea.
It's 75 feet tall. Like,
Yeah, he got some speedy workers, because his plan was to do this in the morning. He's like, you guys are going to work all night to get these things. 75 feet.
like
is a
that
long
seems
way.
like overkill.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my.
He wanted the whole city to see Mordecai.
I mean, he also wanted to kill like an entire race in a
Mason
day.
is
So
correct.
He's kind of out there.
It's kind of
Genocide in a day is kind of tough.
75 feet in the air is not
Mass
that much.
genocide,
We want to kill
though.
an entire.
Well, he's not going to hang the entire.
Well, yeah, that'd be a while.
That'd be a lot bigger than
That'd take a
75
while.
feet.
Like, he loves this idea, and he's gonna try to get it done so quick. He's gonna try to get it done the next morning. So we go on. This story is getting crazier and crazier to me the more I read it than I thought. Whenever I first thought, like, when Shelby's like, let's go through Esther, I'm thinking, I know everything about Esther. I've read Esther.
I've been there.
There's a lot of things I haven't picked up on. And I didn't realize how far away the Jews, there's a reason that this book of the Bible does not mention God. I mean, they're a long ways from God at this point. And they're trying to struggle through this on their own. And it's not getting them very far, very quick. They think they're in big trouble currently. And they're relying on one girl who actually has some sense to her. And she's pretty smart about it. But I want everybody to just bow your heads for me real quick. We're running out of time. Nobody looking around for me. Please and thank you. Can someone hit the camera?
Okay.
Thank you. Pull that lever. So, once again, last week we had the question from Jesse. Like, what do I take from this story? And like I said, you get more and more into Esther, and you get farther into points and different answers to what do I get out of the story. It kind of has to be a whole. But 1 hour at a time, we do not have time to go through all of Esther in one night. But what I take from this tonight is I have a question, and maybe it won't affect any of you. I don't know. But I see myself doing it. I have 2 questions for you guys. And I'm just going to have you raise your hand like normal. And I'm not judging anyone. My only thing is, if you're willing to admit it, that you need to work on it. But we do not have, as Christians, much time in life. The Bible specifically tells us life is a vapor. It's gone in a moment. You guys are brand new. You guys are some of the youngest Christians out there that are going to influence people. But it still will go by quickly. We don't have time as Christians to let stuff distract us, to be like Haman. I mean, Haman obviously was not a Christian, don't get me wrong. I'm still going to use him. We don't have time for one little thing to upset us and put us into a distracted state where we're not going to be able to tell people about Jesus. It is our time. Just like Mordecai told Esther, like, maybe you're in this situation for such a time as this. I don't know what points in your life and what bothers you guys and what distracts you, whether it be something in school or a friend or anything like that. You might be in your situation because that's where you're supposed to be and God's going to use you in it. But if you find yourself getting distracted by little things that's preventing you from telling people about Jesus and just shining your light as bright as it should be, and you want to try to work on that, and you're willing to admit that, hey, I get distracted sometimes, I get irritated. Maybe I'm in a great mood at one point, but irritated the next. But if you're willing to admit that and you want to work on that point in your life, go ahead and raise your hand for me. Keep them up for just a moment. All right, lower. Before I move on to my next question, I just want to tell you guys being willing to admit that is awesome. And because there are things, I mean, if you get irritated at little things and that's what you can think about, the devil's going to throw that stuff at you, because if you're thinking about that thing, guess what you're not thinking about it? You're not thinking about God. If you're thinking about God, you're going to be more open to using those spots where maybe you're in them for that reason. But you're not going to see those openings if you're not thinking about God. My second question is, actually I typed those both in one. I apologize. But I just want you guys to know that whatever you deal with, just remember that you serve a big God. We get in stressful situations. Maybe it's work, maybe it's school. If you try your hardest and try to do what Jesus is telling you to do, this isn't going with the lesson, but he's going to pick up the slack. You can only do so much. And if you try to push yourself and get beyond that point of what you can do, you're going to fall on your face. You can only try to do what you can and be willing to give it up to God. And he will push you through anything you got. And just remember that, especially when you get into those irritating points, whatever's distracting you, whatever you raise your hand about. When you get to those points, remember, hey, Jesus loves me. And it'll be okay. I can handle it. He will help me through this. I just want to tell you guys thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm going to pray. Lord, thank you for all the blessings you've given us. Thank you for blessing us with this lesson. Just use us, guide and direct all of us. Bless us this week. I'm asking your guidance over the ones who say they get distracted. They just don't know what to do sometimes. Their focus is on something else and they need to focus on you, Lord. Turn their eyes upon you that they could know that you are there for them and that you are there holding them no matter where they're at in life, Lord. Just pour your presence on each one of our lives, Lord. Just cover us up and just let rain on us. Bless all the prayer requests that were given earlier. Bless the teen of it this weekend. Give me the words to say. Help me that I could just know what you want me to talk about. And bless everyone that we can come back and just fill this place up, Lord. Thank you for everything you do for us. In Jesus' name, amen. Real quick, turn.